It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
I gotta tell you, I find this whole Trump thing to be quite amusing on a number of levels, but it is political theater. It is compelling TV, especially when you had Roger Stone and Mike Flynn, evidently with the Pastors for Trump holding a prayer vigil, and I find it hysterical that, even that Stone's out there saying, we prayed together on the phone. Trump's a man who is completely without fear because he puts his faith in the Lord. And I'm going, really? Does anyone buy that even a little bit? I know they're playing for a specific crowd. I know that messaging is supposed to be for, the people that might support Mike Pence. But does anybody actually believe that? But again, he wasn't a top-rated TV star for no reason. He knows how to get attention for himself. And here to share some thoughts on where we are and who's making money. Because again, I go back to Rupert Murdoch. It's not about red or blue. It's about green. And well, for all the clickbaiters out there, Trump is nothing but green. That's why I've asked my good friend Craig Herring to come share some thoughts. Craig is the research director over at Media Matters, MediaMatters.org, the website if you want to check out the work that they do. Craig, thanks for taking time for us.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
So I'm looking at this, and my first thought is, wow, it really is all about the money. Rupert Murdoch was right. Les Moonves was right. It's about the cash. He brings in cash because he's got compelling content.
Yeah, and for those of you who are trying to get caught up here, just in the past couple of days, over the past few months since the start of 2023, we've seen Trump get reinstated on the big social media platforms. First was Facebook, and then Twitter, and then last Friday in the afternoon, he was reinstated on YouTube. Now, YouTube is very important for Donald Trump. Personally and politically. YouTube has allowed him to put out his campaign messages, which is very important to his actual communication strategy, his paid strategy, and his viral strategy. But YouTube also is important to him personally because it allows him to bring in fundraising for his campaigns, so that Donald Trump isn't as rich as he claimed to be. He did not self-finance his campaigns. He cannot self-finance his re-election bid in 2024. But he needs to be able to reach eyeballs, and he needs to be able to put paid advertisements out on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and he needs to be able to have viral and organic reach through those social media platforms to their collectively billions of daily users. It is absolutely vital to his financial and political prospects to get back onto YouTube. And it's not an accident that the day, March 17th, that his YouTube account was reinstated and fully authorized again, he posted for the first time on Facebook since his reinstatement. Donald Trump's first post on Facebook since he was temporarily suspended from the platform in the wake of the January 6th insurrection was just 2 words and a cleverly edited video that was a sort of homage to how long he'd been away and how complicated it was for him to come back. And it just was 2 words: "I'm back." Now, if you're a basketball junkie like me, you'll know that was cribbed directly from Michael Jordan, who on March 18th, 1995, announced that he was coming back to the NBA. And returned for part of the season for the Bulls, and they went on to three-peat again. I'm a huge Michael Jordan junkie and a big basketball head, so I saw that immediately. He picked the date intentionally, but he put his "I'm back" statement out on a Friday instead of a Saturday so that it wouldn't be completely buried and he'd get some news. And it was smart. It came out at like 4:17 p.m. and it dominated the news for the rest of the day. It was all over the internet, and that's how he gets us. The man, like you said, he was not a TV star on accident. He really, really understands the media. He understands earned media, most importantly. It's just that he, as a person, is a shocking president and a terrifying political leader. But as a media property, like you said, he's incredibly valuable, and he's good at that. He's good at making money, and he's good at making money for those platforms, and that's why they're letting him back on.
No, he's a master clickbaiter. There's no question about that. But the question then becomes, the rest of us who are paying attention to this, Because a lot of people, as I just talked about a few minutes ago, we've gone through the Reagan era, we went through the H.W. Bush era, we went through the W era, and all the things that they did, we just once they left office, kind of said, never mind, they're gone. Let sleeping dogs lie. There's got to be a point where you go, enough already. I mean, we just saw over the weekend a guy, 43 years ago is now coming out saying, yeah, that whole October surprise thing that you knew about, yeah, we did that. You look at what happened 20 years ago with going into Iraq. It's not even a joke, not even a secret anymore. It's a joke that, yeah, we lied about the cartoon drawings and the weapons of mass destruction. Nobody's ever held accountable. And I think that's where this moment's different. Now, the hush money thing I think is ridiculous, but the phone call and some of the other stuff, somebody has to be held accountable for.
Yeah. And, the hush money, it's ridiculous and not ridiculous, right? Like, it's a crime. Someone went to prison for it. Michael Cohen went to jail for committing a crime on Donald Trump's behalf. He was suborned to commit a crime. And so that makes Donald Trump a conspiracy in that crime, a conspirator in that crime. Donald Trump has always been a conspirator in that crime, always, since the very outset. And the reporting that we saw first released by Trump himself, I believe on Saturday, letting his followers know on his social media platform, Truth Social, that he thought he was going to be arrested and indicted this Tuesday, March 21st. That sort of took the world by storm over the weekend and has been the dominant media narrative in the country over the past several days. And one of the arguments we're getting to see from commentators, particularly mainstream media commentators, right-wing media commentators, their argument it sort of boils down to what Jesse Waters said on television last night about Donald Trump, which is that it didn't happen, but if it did happen, it was good. And that's always how it's been, right? Like if you're a Trump supporter, you think, well, this shocking thing, this shocking accusation, and they always turn out to be true, this is false. But if it's not false, it's actually smart of him to do it. And actually, I prefer that he did it, and I wish everyone would do it that way. But only Trump can afford to do that. And that's where the right wing is coalescing with the Stormy Daniels hush money payments, and the potential tax evasion and campaign finance violations associated with that hush money, which is what Michael Cohen went to jail for. Trump was a co-conspirator in that. There are criminal penalties for crimes. Just because this isn't the worst thing he ever did doesn't mean that he shouldn't face consequences from it. But one of the things we're beginning to see from mainstream commentators is the argument that actually that Trump oughtn't or shouldn't face this first or face this at all because it's not the worst thing he ever did. Some people have pointed out that, say, like Al Capone wasn't sent to jail for all of the people he killed or all of the assassinations that he plotted and funded or all of the judges that he paid off. He went to jail for tax evasion. And this is sort of the Capone moment for Trump, if it's anything. But what remains to be seen is whether or not he'll be arrested, whether or not he'll be indicted, whether or not he'll be arraigned, whether there will be a public spectacle, and what the response from the right wing will be. We know what the right wing wants their response to be, which is loud and proud. But if today's turnouts at these pro-Trump sort of flash mobs that were organized around the country in New York and in Mar-a-Lago, if today's turnout is anything indicative of what we can expect tomorrow or in the future, we saw reporting from Ben Collins at NBC News that reporters outnumbered protesters at these supposed pro-Trump MAGA rally Patriot blockade events. They're talking about putting a MAGA moat around Mar-a-Lago so that the police can't come and get him. And people are asking Ron DeSantis if he will obstruct the extradition of Donald Trump to New York City. And of course, New York City is widely seen as a Democratic stronghold, but there are millions of Republicans in the New York City metro area as well. And they're calling on each other to go out to the courthouse and surround it and prevent the sort of orderly processing of Trump's arraignment, indictment, arrest, et cetera, which is very similar to what we saw, of course, on January 6, 2021, with the besieging and sacking of the United States Capitol building. But it remains to be seen if people will actually show up to this. One of the things that Media Matters has been circulating is guidance to allies and other research organizations and media organizations explaining some of the right-wing media phenomena that we're seeing. And because over the past 2 years, the right-wing media has tried so hard to distance itself from the legal consequences of January 6, 2021, we actually see that they've kind of undermined their own organizing ability with their capacity to put together these big rallies, because essentially everyone everyone in the social network of these right-wingers who might turn out is worried that someone else is working with the feds, right? Everyone who sacked the Capitol building, when it was 1 p.m. on January 6, 2021, Laura Ingraham was on Fox News cheering. Tucker Carlson was tweeting his thumbs off. Lauren Boebert was saying this is 1776 again. But by that night, when people had started to be arrested and processed, and when the depictions of the violence and the really shocking spectacle of that day were just etched into our national memory and were broadcast internationally live for hours and hours that day, all of a sudden it was Antifa actually did this. People dressed as Trump supporters did this. The people who were motivating and instigating and organizing this were actually undercover federal officers, not earnest Trump supporters. And because they've laid that groundwork and repeated those lies over and over and over for 2 years, they're actually having a lot of trouble organizing and motivating people to come out to these events. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be that they should be taken lightly, but it is a real catch-22 that the right wing has found themselves in. They've undermined their own base very significantly with their responses to January 6th, and that might be the thing that is undermining their ability to put people in the streets and create the MAGA moat and the Patriot blockade that they're talking about right now with Donald Trump's potential arrest.
Is it also possible that some people are looking at this and going, maybe there's some truth in some of this? Maybe we should be holding the rich and powerful accountable for things that they actually did? Because, having had some conversations with Trump supporters over the weekend, a lot of them weren't motivated. I mean, you going out and taking the country back, getting the militia suit on and going and marching in the streets. And no, they got to go to work Monday morning. They got lives to lead. How much of this is that as well?
I can't speak to the motivations of any of these individuals or the mob en masse, but I could point to some indicators that may be correct. How did Ron DeSantis respond to these reports that Trump might face an arrest and indictment? He made sure to include the word porn star as much as possible and hush money as much as possible and say, I don't know anything about this stuff that some other politicians might know about. I don't know how this works, but it's cockamamie and these are low consequences. This is a George Soros DA, and he's doing all of the dog whistles and all the games and gimmicks. But Ron DeSantis, if he decides to announce his run for president, he needs to steal a huge chunk of Donald Trump's core base. And it seems as if he thinks his play is to reach out to those people who are just exhausted by the Stormy Daniels-ness of Trump and tell them, I'm the right wing authoritarian you can trust. I'm the one who isn't going to bring you. Who isn't going to make you ashamed to wear my hat around in public? Yeah,
you're not going to wear the hood; you'll wear the hat.
Yeah. You can wear the white face mask, but not the red hat. Whether or not that works, whether or not his ploy is correct, remains to be seen. Maybe we'll start to find out tomorrow. But that certainly seems to be his tactic, and that might indicate some truth to your intuition that. A lot of people are fed up with this, and I know you're not speaking just of intuition. You have an actual anecdote. You've talked to real people. He's talked to real people too, and I believe that that's probably part of his motivation. Whether or not that's going to succeed with the right wing media, which don't seem to be quite exhausted by Trump, that remains to be seen.
No, because they're making money off of it. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about getting ears on the radio, eyes on the TV. People reaching in their pockets to buy flags and newsletters and all of this stuff. He's an industry, and he's delivering.
And that's absolutely true. If you go to the website MediaMatters.org, we have a clip from Sunday's edition of CBS's Face the Nation. And NYU media ethics professor Scott Galloway was on Face the Nation talking about the reinstatement of Trump and what it means. And he kind of cut to the chase. And he said, look, they're doing this because he's now relevant and potentially profitable for these companies. It's not an accident that when he became Mr. Irrelevant in the lame duck phase of his presidency, when his attempt to steal the election and overturn the results, when all those attempts had failed and the sieging of the Capitol had failed, it was only after the Capitol was cleared that all these companies suddenly, had their Damascus Road conversions and kicked Trump off their platforms because he was now irrelevant. They could move on. They didn't need him. But now that he's back, now that he's announced his candidacy, and now that he is the Republican frontrunner, whether or not he wins remains to be seen, but he's absolutely the frontrunner. Now that he's the frontrunner, they need that hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising revenue and organic growth and the user base that Trump promises and that Trump can bring. And that's why they're bringing him back. This is pure capitalism. This isn't a cartel. This isn't a collusion. This isn't the corporatocracy trying to trying to instill their liberal agenda. This is just dollar signs. And I think that the clip we have on the website cuts to the chase very, very easily in less than 90 seconds. And frankly, he does a better job of synopsis than I did just now.
No, absolutely. It's all about the money. And that's part of the problem with our media culture, is they're feeding us not what we need, but what people want. And they want the horse race. They want the division. They want the chaos. And look, Trump thrives in chaotic. I think it was Chris Christie who said, Trump thrives in turmoil and chaos, which is why he keeps trying to create turmoil and chaos. It's what's worked for him.
And the media benefit from that too. I think that's part of the reason also that we saw so many media over the 4 years of his administration talk about a potential change in tone and a pivot from Trump. We actually saw this. It was very peculiar and frankly kind of a ridiculous episode. This morning, a CNN legal analyst was talking about Trump's inciting posts that he made on Truth Social over the weekend. So on Saturday, it starts with him calling for protests. And if you're a Trump supporter, the protest, that means J6, right? That means
Yep.
siege the Capitol. We know what that means. We saw it happen.
Yep.
So on Saturday and Sunday, he's calling for protests. But on Monday, he wasn't calling for protests. He was talking about George Soros. He was spreading conspiracies. He was asking for the police to not show up to work and to not help their corrupt Democratic politicians arrest and indict and arraign him. But he wasn't specifically calling for violence in, quote, all of his posts. And CNN latched onto that. And the reporter, who otherwise was reporting all of the dangerous stuff that Trump was doing, all of the incitement that he was posting, and she said, maybe that's an indication that some people in his orbit are getting through because all of what he posted wasn't violent. And it was like, even in that instance, this person is kind of grasping for the pivot, the presidential pivot.
It's never
coming. It's never coming.
No, look, when he was in office, I'd have people come on and say, oh, he's going to resign any day now. And that was like for the whole thing. And I'm going, he's never resigning. I remember all the people, Mueller's coming, Mueller's never coming. And I kind of feel the same way in this moment. Look, there might be indictments that are brought down. But ultimately, I don't see him going to jail. I just don't. No. I don't feel like being Charlie Brown again and again and again.
Yeah. And we all feel like that. I've been talking with some of my colleagues about that for a long time. There was a time I thought the Access Hollywood tape, like a lot of media observers, journalists, people watching that October 6th, 2016, we thought that was the end.
Yeah.
Right. David Fairholtz had just uncovered the thing that was going to destroy Trump. And the thing is that for a few days it was, but then what happened is WikiLeaks came out with their hacked email dump. They reclaimed the narrative. James Comey produces his Halloween dated letter, reinserting Hillary Clinton and the word FBI investigation into the narrative. And the rest is history. But I think this is actually an important potential point. A lot of people have become very nihilistic about Trump. They think nothing matters, nothing affects him. But these things actually do affect him quite a lot. And if you ever were to track his actual polling numbers over the course of his 4 years in office or his public polling now, he is really affected by these big scandals. They do, he stays within a tight bar. He never drops, the bottom never falls out like post-Iraq War George W. Bush. But these big things do affect him. And remember, he lost. Not only did he only get, 45% of the vote when he won, he got an even smaller vote share as an incumbent president, and he lost. And he lost a bunch of red states that hadn't changed in 30 years. So this stuff does affect him. Yeah. And if it's going to affect him in the public, we might not see that for a year and a half until Election Day 2024. But being indicted matters. The looming indictment for Hillary Clinton, which never came, absolutely mattered. It absolutely affected the elections. Real indictments at the city level in New York's district attorney, at the county level with the Fulton County prosecution over his attempt to defraud the election in Georgia, or potential federal indictments for his role in January 6th or other federal crimes that the Justice Department is currently looking into. I think those will matter. Will they make the bottom fall out? Will they cost him the primary? Who knows? But will they cost him a general election? That's entirely plausible because we've seen these scandals pile up before.
Yeah.
This is the reason he lost.
My hope is he gets the nomination and he gets crushed in the general. But again, I know I'm not supposed to wish that out loud because it could go the other way, and that's where we will see. But Craig, I appreciate the time and the thoughts. Great stuff as always. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Our good friend Craig Harrington. Make sure to check out their website, MediaMatters.org. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a look at that. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around and listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people on the talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
Listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So JJ just sent me an email. Why in God's name would you want Trump to win the GOP primary? Look, I think he has to be beaten at the polls and soundly. I think it has to happen again, and it has to happen in a big way. Or we're going to continue to have these, everything was stolen from us, this victim complex that the right has. And look, I ran into it over the weekend where I ran into some people who were like, you know, Trump was cheated. You know Trump was cheated. I'm going, no. Like 60 hearings. We exhausted they exhausted every court option possible. There is, sorry, no there. I know you believe, but the reality is what the reality is. And this is where I think, look, if it's not Trump who gets beat in 2024, I don't know that you can move forward. Because here's the thing, and this is the important point in all this. We are a polar divided country right now. And the thing is, there are things that we agree on. The problem is we're being told different things. A perfect example. A listener sent me this Jordan Peterson video. I'm not a big Jordan Peterson fan. I'm not in either camp. I'm not in I definitely don't love him, but I don't hate him either. It's the same thing with Andrew Tate. I'm not in oh my God, he's a great, and I don't hate him either. He's got some interesting things to say. I don't agree with many of them, but there's a kernel of reality in some of it. One of the things that Jordan Peterson said is, he's talking about, the prices of everything going up. Fuel's going up and food's going up, and they're doing this on purpose. And he asked the question, how much short-term pain are you going to be required? All of this pain and all this suffering because of this. And he used a phrase, Deloitte-style moralists, which I guess this now is the catch-all for the LGBTQ plus folks, for environmentalists, anyone who's saying, we should make changes to accommodate, the less fortunate, to accommodate the poor, the needy, whatever the group is, he's lumping them together. And, never mind the fact that, food prices go up, shelter's going up, energy costs are going up. It's capitalism. Welcome to capitalism. Now he's trying to say, no, it's this Deloitte style moralism. It's because of these PR firms that do all this stuff. You go, no, it's capitalism that does this stuff. And again, this is where the right and the left can agree. Energy prices are too high. Wages are too low. Things are not right. But the Jordan Petersons and the folks on the extreme right, they're pushing their narrative. And their narrative is things are bad because we give equal rights to others. Not the fact that we've got greedy capitalists who are robbing us blind at every opportunity. Just an interesting moment. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right-left or red-blue, when they are and always have been up-down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.